buses or the lack of them, places like Somerset have long suffered from services being cut back. Now campaigners refer to towns like Ilminster as bus deserts. The County Council is hoping the government will ride to the rescue, as James Craig reports.
Through single-track lanes, market towns and picturesque countryside, buses travel millions of miles across Somerset each year. But long trips and falling passenger numbers mean it's harder to run commercial services here. Helping to plug the gap, community transport groups like this. Susan relies on this minibus service. She uses it 3 times a week to get into town, pick up prescriptions and do her shopping.
It's beyond words. Without it, I wouldn't be able to stay where I am at the moment. Making my fortnightly bookings is a joy, because I know that I'll be going out and I'll be seeing other people and doing what I need to do.
And Susan's not alone. The team running these buses say they're a lifeline to hundreds of people in rural areas.
I think it's important to widen the hours that we provide the service for, because you've got a lot of younger people coming through now that can't afford cars. There are no mainstream buses from the surrounding villages. You need to get to colleges, you need to get to schools, so it's important for them, but it's also important for the elderly to maintain their independence as well. It's very isolating, and in the world we're in at the moment, it does affect their mental health quite a bit. I don't think people realise how rural South Somerset is. You can feel like you're on a bus for 5-10 minutes and you're only travelling half a mile out of a town. Nobody can walk that distance with the width of the country lanes have got.
The market town of Ilminster, last year described by one campaign group as a transport desert because of its poor connections. For locals, it's a case of buses. What buses?
Every hour or so, not great there. You get people coming from Donya and they have to sit and wait.
Almost non-existent, actually. We've noticed very much it's much better in Dorset.
I think it could be better, because we go on, if you come in on the 9:20 in the morning, we've got to catch it back at 5 to 10, which just gives you enough time to dive into co-op.
I don't like driving in small towns, so this is really helpful. I can just come and
Catch your bus then.
Lovely, thank you.
At the moment, 90% of buses stop running by 6 p.m. or earlier. The number of trips made by bus in Somerset dropped by 34% in 5 years. And the county has the 5th lowest rates of bus usage anywhere in England. Just a few miles away, in Taunton, services are far more regular. But that masks the reality. Somerset's bus market is in decline. The County Council's come up with a big new plan to try and change all that. It's bidding for £160 million of government cash to overhaul Somerset's bus services.
So we've got to make the buses much more appealing, making them much more frequent, making them a 7 to 7 service right across our county, making them greener, making the bus stops more transparent with their information, improving the bus stations, making the package overall far more appealing for people to get out of their cars and onto those buses.
Lots of people across the country are going to be bidding for this money. Why does Somerset deserve this more than other places?
Well, if you live in a city, you've got a much better opportunity to run a commercial bus service. We're a rural area, that makes it really difficult. Low patronage, long journeys. So it's here where the investments are needed. And so we believe that rural areas are the places that should get the money, and Somerset should be right at the top of that list.
Back in Ilminster, I met 26-year-old Amy. She's walked into town 3 miles from her home and welcomes any improvement to bus services.
I think that'd be absolutely fantastic. It'd be fantastic for people that don't have transport, fantastic for the older generation so that they'll be able to get out and go to places so they don't have to rely on like walking or getting a taxi. Whereas like the bus services are quite, I think they're quite cheap, so it'd be really good for them as well. And also for myself, if I want to go and catch a bus.
With numerous government pledges to level up all corners of the country, campaigners hope speeding up Somerset's buses would be just the ticket.
Just the ticket, get it? Our thanks to James. And of course, if you want to comment on that story or any others, then our hashtag is up there, other side. I always get that wrong every week. Well, this is a case, the bus is being taken up by the Somerset MP, David Warburton, who is particularly worried about school transport, actually. I'm delighted to say that he joins me now from Somerset. Thanks for coming on. How bad are things?
Well, I think I've been increasingly concerned, Dave, that more and more children are struggling to get to school because of the lack of bus provision. And as we've just heard, not all parents, not all carers, not all people can drive or even own a car, and not all roads, particularly in rural Somerset, have the right footpath, street lighting for children to walk safely. And I've had some. Let me give you some examples. I've got a constituent who has cancer, and neither her nor her husband drive, and her daughter's been kicked off the school bus because there aren't enough places, and they have to homeschool. And I've got another constituent whose son has autism, epilepsy, scoliosis, and he can't be sure of a seat on the bus, so he's too scared to take the bus. And so I've tried to engage with the council and private bus companies on this issue, but I have reached a bit of a brick wall. So in the Commons on Monday, I spoke to the schools minister and asked what steps he's taking, and he assured me that that Somerset got over 1.1 million of additional funding for school and college transport.
Yeah, but David, if I may come in, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I mean the subsidies have been reduced over the years under the Conservatives.
No. During the next spending review, authorities will receive an extra 1.6 billion a year to maintain these kinds of services. So, but it doesn't seem to be getting through, and that's my concern. Which is why, so I'm starting this campaign, A Better Bus to School. The idea, though, is to bring together stakeholders, parents, carers, schools, bus companies, and local authorities, just to understand where that money's gone and why children are being left out of control.
I want to bring in Dan now. You've got money for a new bus route between Bristol and Bath.
Yeah.
Where's that going to go?
Well, it's much more than that, David. It's a whole range of packages, but it includes a journey between Bristol and Bath and back again, of course. The reality is that it's 540 million, which is a huge amount of money, and I'm very grateful for that. It's really important that we spend that wisely, which is why your earlier package was talking about how we all get along, because we do need to discuss that, and we need to do that at our next meeting in early December. What's difficult has been the pandemic, and the government, to credit to them, have subsidised buses during the pandemic, but they've suddenly reduced the amounts of money they made available, which has caused a lot of difficulty, particularly to school bus services as well.
I'm just fascinated about where that Bristol to Bath bus route is going to go.
Well, I know I've heard you speak about it before, and your concerns about Salford, and I know the residents of Salford are very
opinions. But I just wonder, knowing the area, just where it's going to go.
Well, that's part of the challenge, and that's why it's a large amount of money.
You've got money for a bus route, but you don't know where it's going to go.
Well, we've got to make sure that we get bus routes wherever we need them to work effectively, and there are bottlenecks in places like Salford, which are going to be real challenges. There's no doubt about it.
This underground that the mayor talks about in Bristol, is that a non-starter, or do you think that's a reality?
I think that's something that's a long time off, if it in fact happens. What I'm concerned about is what happens over the next 5 years, which is what this large £500 million is all about.
Let's just go back to David in Somerset. I mean, just looking at that film that James did, you can't help but notice that most of the buses are empty.
Well, I mean, this is a problem that bus there can be a vicious circle. So fewer people use the buses because there are fewer and fewer services, and then because there are fewer and fewer services, fewer and fewer people use the buses. So, but we need to unblock that, and we need to pull the cork out of the bottle. And the money is coming through, as we've heard, but we need to make sure it actually gets to the people on the ground, and we actually get our county moving again.
Okay. Well, stay with us, David, because I want to talk to you about romance, if I may.